Welcome back to the English Hour, everyone. I'm your host, Sophia, and today, I'm joined again by our favorite guest, Jacob. How are you today, Jacob?
Hey, Sophia, I'm doing great. I just had a big cup of coffee, so I'm ready to talk for hours. How about you?
Perfect. That's exactly the energy we need. I'm doing well too. The weather's been beautiful here lately, sunny, but with that perfect breeze. You know those days where you feel like going on a long walk with a podcast in your ear.
Oh, yeah, those are the best. I love walking while listening to something engaging. It's like feeding your body and your brain at the same time.
Exactly, speaking of podcasts, today's episode is going to be one of those deep dive, no rush, let's talk about everything kind of episodes. We don't have a fixed topic. We'll just let the conversation flow.
I love that. That's when the best ideas come out when you're not stuck to an agenda. So, where do we start?
Let's start with something simple. What's something recently that made you stop and think?
Hmm. Interesting question. I'd say last week I was at a bookstore and I overheard two teenagers talking about how they don't read physical books anymore. One of them said, "Books are just decoration now." It made me pause.
Oh wow, that's such a Gen Z thing to say, right?
Totally. But it got me thinking, have we become too digital? I mean, I love audiobooks and ebooks, but there's something about the smell of a real book, the feel of flipping pages. It's like grounding.
Yes, there's something romantic about a real book. I still keep a shelf of my favorites, even if I rarely reread them. They're like little trophies of knowledge and memory.
Exactly. And each book you finish is like a chapter of your own life. You remember where you were when you read it, what mood you were in.
It's like music, in a way. A good book can teleport you back to a moment in time.
Absolutely. Do you remember the first book that really pulled you in?
I do, actually. It was The Secret Garden. I was probably 10. I remember reading it late at night, under my blanket with a flashlight. I felt like I was in the garden with Mary Lennox.
That's a classic. Mine was The Hobbit. I was in middle school, and it completely blew my mind. I didn't know books could feel like movies in your head.
I love that. Isn't it funny how those early reading experiences shape our imagination? Like, they set a standard for what venture or mystery should feel like.
Totally. And I think they even affect how we talk and think as adults. People who read a lot early on usually have a richer vocabulary, don't you think?
Yes, that's something I've noticed too, especially when helping people learn English. Readers usually have a more intuitive sense of grammar and sentence rhythm.
And better storytelling skills. You can always tell when someone reads a lot, they know how to hold your attention.
Definitely. You know, that makes me wonder, what do you think is more important when learning English: reading, writing, speaking, or listening?
Ooh, great question. I'd say listening comes first. When you're a baby, you don't start with reading or writing, right? You listen to the sounds around you, and then you mimic them.
Right, listening is how you pick up pronunciation and flow. Even accents are shaped that way.
Exactly, then I'd say speaking comes next. Once you can understand, you need to respond. You build confidence by trying, even if you make mistakes.
Yes, mistakes are part of the process. I always tell people fluency doesn't mean perfection. It means communication.
Well said. Then reading and writing can come in, like the structure part. Reading helps you see how sentences are built, and writing lets you experiment.
I love that order. It mirrors natural learning. First you listen, then speak, then read and write. That's how we all learned our first language.
Exactly. But in school, it's often reversed. They start with grammar rules and writing. No wonder it feels so unnatural sometimes.
Yes, and it creates anxiety too. People are afraid to speak because they think they'll get the grammar wrong.
Which is a shame because speaking is where the fun is. It's where real connection happens.
True. That reminds me, have you ever tried learning another language?
I have. I tried learning Spanish a few years ago. I was doing okay until the verb conjugations started giving me nightmares.
Oh, I can relate. I tried learning French, and those silent letters drove me crazy.
Right, like why even write them if you're not going to say them?
Exactly, but I do love how romantic French sounds.
Yeah, it's like every word is a song. Spanish is like that too, very rhythmic.
So when you were learning Spanish, what helped you the most?
Watching TV shows in Spanish with English subtitles. I didn't even realize I was learning at first, it just started to click. One day I understood a joke without needing the subtitles. And I was like, wait, did I just get that?
That's the best feeling. It's like your brain is secretly doing the work behind the scenes.
Exactly. Have you ever had that happen with your French?
Yes, I was watching a cooking show, and the chef said something about garlic and butter. I understood the whole sentence, and I nearly jumped off the couch.
Haha, garlic and butter, the universal language.
Totally. I think food is a great way to connect to language and culture. Recipes, menus, cooking shows, they're full of practical vocabulary.
And you get to eat after, it's a win-win.
Always a plus. Okay, let's pivot a little. What do you think about the idea that AI will take over language learning?
That's a deep one. I think AI can help a lot, it already does. But it can't replace human interaction. Language is emotional, contextual, and sometimes illogical.
Yes, you can learn grammar from a chatbot, but jokes, sarcasm, or cultural nuances, that takes real human vibes.
Exactly. AI is great for practice, but you still need conversation, mistakes, awkward pauses. That's how we grow.
And emotional moments too. Like saying, I love you. Or comforting someone. You need to feel it, not just translate it.
Totally agree. Language is heart and soul, not just structure.
Beautifully said, Jacob. I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
Well, we're off to a great start. Let's keep going. What's next on your mind?
Let's dive into something a bit more personal. What motivates you to keep learning, especially as an adult?
Oof, that's a big one. I think for me, it's the idea that I'm never finished. Like, there's always something new to discover, some perspective I haven't heard yet. And honestly, learning keeps me feeling alive.
I love that. It's like, the moment we stop learning is the moment we stop evolving, right?
Exactly. And also small victories, like when you use a new word in conversation correctly, or when someone compliments your pronunciation. Those little moments are so satisfying.
Totally. It's like leveling up in a game. And I think adults sometimes forget that learning can be joyful. It's not just school tests and grades, it can be about exploring what you love.
Yes, and when you're an adult, you get to choose what you learn. That freedom makes all the difference.
It really does. I've noticed that people who learn for passion retain more than people who are just doing it for a requirement.
Absolutely. And it's also about mindset. If you believe you're too old to learn something, then that becomes your reality.
Yes, I've had students in their 50s and 60s learning English, and they often say, I wish I started earlier. But I always remind them now is always the best time to start.
I love that. There's this quote I always remember. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
One of my favorites too, so powerful. Let's talk mindset for a bit. Do you think mindset really impacts language learning?
100%, I'd say it's 70% mindset, 30% method. If you go in thinking, this is going to be hard, I'll probably fail, then your brain is already on the defense.
That's so true. I've seen learners with average skills make huge progress, just because they had belief in themselves.
Exactly. And it's not about ignoring difficulties, it's about embracing them. Like, this is hard, but I can do it.
Yes, growth mindset. One of my favorite concepts. I always encourage learners to say, I don't know this yet.
Adding it changes everything. It gives you permission to be in progress.
And that's where the magic happens, in the progress, not perfection.
Exactly. Can I share a quick story?
Please do.
So, a few years ago, I was tutoring a guy from Brazil. He was super shy, barely spoke. But every lesson, he would come with a smile and say, one more brick. I asked him what it meant, and he said, each word I learn is a brick in my English house. One day, I'll live in it.
Oh wow, that gave me goosebumps. What a beautiful metaphor.
Right? And you know what? A year later, he was fluent. Not perfect, but fluent, because he kept building one brick at a time.
I love that so much. I think that's going to stay with me And probably with everyone listening too.
Yeah, it reminded me that consistency beats intensity. A little bit every day goes further than cramming once a week.
Yes, it's like fitness. You can't go to the gym once a month and expect six-pack abs.
Haha, exactly. Or imagine watering a plant with a bucket once a month instead of a glass every day. Which one's gonna thrive?
Such a great image. So Jacob, what are some practical things people can do daily to improve their English?
Ooh, okay, let's list them. Number 1, listen to something in English every day. A podcast, music, YouTube, whatever. Even if it's just 10 minutes while brushing your teeth.
Yes, exposure is everything. What else?
Number 2, keep a language journal. Write down new words or expressions you hear and try using them in your own sentences.
That's a great one. Writing helps lock it into memory.
3, talk to yourself. Sounds weird, but it works. Narrate your day in English. Now I'm making coffee. I will go to work after this.
I do that in French sometimes. It's great practice and gets your brain thinking in the language.
Exactly. Number 4, find a language buddy or join an online speaking group. You need to practice speaking, not just studying.
Speaking is where the confidence grows. Even 5 minutes a day helps.
And 5, be curious. If you don't understand a word, look it up. Don't just guess on your learning.
Love this list. Simple, actionable, and powerful.
Yeah. Learning doesn't need to be fancy or expensive. It just needs to be daily.
That's such a powerful message. Let's talk about fear for a second. A lot of learners are afraid to speak in public or make mistakes. What's your advice?
Oh man, I've been there. My advice is reframe fear as fuel. If you're nervous, it means you care. That's a good thing.
Yes, and no one ever became fluent without messing up. Mistakes are not the enemy, they're part of the process.
Exactly. I always say if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
That's gold. And the truth is, most native speakers won't even notice small mistakes, or they'll admire your effort.
Right. And honestly, think about it when someone tries to speak your language, you don't judge them. You're impressed.
Exactly, we all love effort. It's human.
So embrace the awkward. Speak up, say it wrong, laugh about it. Then try again.
Beautifully put. Let's make a deal with everyone listening. Repeat after us. I will not let fear stop me from learning.
Yes, say it loud and proud.
I will not let fear stop me from learning.
Love it. You've got this, everyone.
Let's take the conversation in a fun direction now. Culture. Language and culture go hand in hand. What's something cultural you've learned just by speaking with English learners?
Oh wow, so many things. I think one that really hit me was how different body language and expressions can be. Like, in some cultures, people nod when they disagree. That completely threw me off in a discussion once.
That's so interesting. I've had similar moments. I remember talking to someone from Japan, and they said, maybe. A lot turns out. That was their polite way of saying, no.
Exactly. And it makes you realize language isn't just about words. It's about tone, gestures, even silence.
Yes, silence can mean agreement, disagreement, or even respect depending on where you are. That's why understanding the culture of a language is just as important.
Totally. And I've learned so much about my own culture by teaching others. You start to see things you always assumed were normal in a new light.
That's one of my favorite parts of teaching English. It's like a mirror. Students ask, why do English speakers say this? And I have to stop and think, why do we say that?
Haha, yes, like when someone asked me, what's the difference between I'm good and I'm well? And I realized we often break our own grammar rules in casual speech.
We do it all the time, especially with slang. Speaking of which, accents, this is such a big topic. What's your take on accents in English?
Ooh, here we go. Hot take, all accents are beautiful. Period.
Yes, say it louder for the people in the back.
Haha, look, the goal of English isn't to sound British or American, it's to be understood. That's it. Communication is key.
Exactly. And English is a global language now. There's no correct accent. There's clarity, confidence, and character.
I love that clarity, confidence, and character. Because our accents tell stories. They show where we're from, who we are, what languages we speak.
So true. And many learners think they have to lose their accent to be good at English. That's not true at all.
Nope. It's about pronunciation, not imitation. You can keep your accent and still sound amazing in English.
Yes, and sometimes I hear learners with such beautiful rhythm in their speech. It's like poetry. You don't need to sound native to sound natural.
That's it, sounding natural. That's the real goal.
So let's pivot a bit. I want to talk about travel. Do you think traveling helps with learning English?
Oh, 100%. Travel forces you to use the language in real situations. Ordering food, asking directions, reading signs, it becomes survival.
Yes, it's like an immersive crash course. You have to speak, and that helps break the fear.
Exactly. I remember my first trip to a non-English country. I was in Spain. I knew a little Spanish, but wow, the pressure made me learn fast.
Pressure builds diamonds, right?
Haha, exactly. It's uncomfortable but powerful. And even if you can't travel far, you can create micro immersion at home.
Yes, I always tell my students to live in English. Even if they're not in an English speaking country. Label your house, think in English. Change your phone language.
Follow English-speaking YouTubers. Join online language exchanges. Dream in English.
Dreaming in English, that's a real sign of progress.
It is, the brain starts processing the language naturally. No translation needed.
So powerful. Alright, let's get into entertainment, my favorite tool for language learning. Movies, shows, music. What's your favorite way to learn through entertainment?
Movies and series, for sure. Watching with subtitles on at first, then gradually turning them off. It trains your ears like nothing else.
Yes, and the context helps so much. You see what's happening, so even if you don't understand every word, you still get the meaning.
Exactly. And I love mimicking lines from my favorite shows. Like I'll rewind and try to copy how the actor said something.
I do that too, it's so fun. And it helps with intonation, pronunciation, even slang.
Speaking of slang, I learned "I'm down" and "no worries" from movies before I ever read them in textbooks.
Right? Textbooks don't always teach how people actually speak. That's why TV shows are gold.
And music too, singing along to lyrics can boost pronunciation and vocabulary.
Yes. Plus, you remember words better when they're in a song. I still remember English words I learned from Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears.
Haha, same. And these days we've got Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, so many resources.
No excuse not to surround yourself with English now. It's everywhere.
Exactly. And here's a pro tipsy: choose content you already love in your native language and watch the English version.
Yes. Or even rewatch your favorite movie. But this time in English. Since you know the story, it's easier to follow the language.
And don't worry about understanding everything. It's okay to miss words. Focus on the general meaning.
That's key. Don't stop every 2 seconds to check a dictionary. Just immerse yourself.
Exactly. Let the language wash over you like music. You'll start picking up patterns naturally.
Let's give the listeners a quick challenge. Choose a movie or show in English tonight. Watch it with English subtitles. Then write down 5 new expressions you hear.
Great idea. And the next day, try using one of those expressions in a real conversation.
That's how you turn entertainment into education.
And it's fun too. Learning doesn't have to be boring.
You're right, Jacob, learning doesn't have to be boring at all. In fact, I think the most successful learners are the ones who find ways to make it fun. Let's talk about vocabulary now. So many people ask, how can I remember more words? What's your take?
That's one of the most common questions I get too. And honestly, the answer is you don't need to remember every word. You need to remember the right words, the useful ones, the words you'll actually use.
Yes, there's no point memorizing 500 words if you don't know how to use them in a sentence.
Exactly. I always recommend starting with high-frequency words. You know, the ones that show up all the time in conversations and writing.
Like, jet, take, make, go. Those are gold. Simple but powerful.
And they have so many meanings. Take, get. For example, you can get a job, get angry, get going, get over something, the list goes on.
Yes, learning those core verbs and mastering the different ways they're used is way more useful than memorizing rare words like serendipity.
Haha, exactly. Unless you're a poet, you probably don't need that one right away.
So let's share some vocabulary tips. One of mine is to write down new words in a sentence, not just the word and meaning. Context is everything.
Great tip. I also suggest using spaced repetition tools. Apps that remind you of a word right before you're about to forget it.
Yes, like Anki, Quizlet, or Memrise. I love those apps. They make learning feel like a game.
And speaking of games, have you tried vocabulary games like crosswords or word matching apps?
Absolutely. I even used to play Scrabble in English. It was so fun. I'd always look up the words afterward to check if I got them right.
Scrabble is classic. I also love watching YouTube videos that teach vocabulary through stories. The words stick better when there's emotion or humor attached.
Totally agree. And you know what else works? Telling your own stories using new words, even if they're silly. Like, yesterday I stumbled upon a cat who looked like my teacher.
Haha, I love that. The more ridiculous the sentence, the more you'll remember it.
Exactly. Now, let's switch gears a little. I want to talk about using technology, especially AI, to learn English. This is such an exciting space.
Oh, definitely. We're in a golden age of language learning tools. Like ChatGPT, this thing is a game changer for learners.
Yes, you can chat with it, ask it to correct your sentences, even practice conversations.
And the best part, it never judges. You can make 100 mistakes and it'll still patiently help you.
That's a huge confidence booster for shy learners. They can build up their skills privately before trying with real people.
Exactly. And there are so many use cases. You can ask AI to write example sentences for new words, explain grammar rules in simple terms, or even quiz you.
I once had a learner who asked ChatGPT to pretend to be a grumpy British grandma, and they practiced polite conversation with her.
Haha, that's brilliant. It makes learning fun and creative.
Yes, you can even paste your writing and ask for corrections. Or say, make this sound more natural. It's like having a personal tutor 24/7.
And the more specific your prompts, the better the results. Like instead of saying, teach me English, you say, explain the difference between they and tell with examples.
Exactly. You've got to guide the AI. It's powerful, but it needs direction.
And don't forget podcasts, videos, audiobooks. AI can help you summarize them, generate vocabulary lists, or even create quizzes from them.
The possibilities are endless. You can learn anytime, anywhere. No more excuses.
That's right, we're living in a time when self-learning has never been easier. All you need is curiosity and consistency.
Well said. Speaking of curiosity, can we share some funny stories from real learners? I think those moments are gold.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a good one time. A student meant to say, I'm full, after eating, but instead said, I'm pregnant, in front of the whole class.
Oh no, that's hilarious. I had someone once say, I'm boring, when they meant, I'm bored. I was like, don't be so hard on yourself.
Haha, poor guy. I also had a learner who wanted to say, I live in the suburbs, but said, I live in the submarines.
I'm crying. Language slip. Ups are part of the journey though. They make great memories.
Exactly. Mistakes are how we grow. And honestly, the more mistakes you make, the faster you improve because you remember them.
Yes, and laughing at your mistakes makes the process easier. Language is supposed to be fun.
Totally. It's not an exam, it's a tool for connection.
So true. And I think sometimes learners forget that. They're so focused on perfection that they forget to enjoy the process.
Right? Communication first, perfection later.
Exactly. Just get your message across. The grammar will follow with time. Communication first, perfection later. I love that. I think we should put that on a t-shirt.
Ah, yes. Let's start a merch line for English learners shirts that say things like progress, not perfection, or I'm fluent in mistakes.
That would actually sell. But seriously, let's talk about something learners struggle with once they hit the intermediate stage plateaus. That feeling of, I'm not improving anymore.
Oh, yeah, the dreaded plateau. You feel like you've been studying for months, but your English sounds the same.
It can be so frustrating. And it happens to almost everyone at some point.
Definitely. And you know what I always say? When you hit a plateau, it's actually a sign of progress
Interesting, why is that?
because you've moved past the beginner stage. In the beginning, improvement is fast, you learn basic words, simple grammar, and you feel the difference every week. But once you're past that, the gains become smaller, less visible. But they're still happening.
That's so true. I've seen learners who feel stuck, but when we look back at their progress over 6 months, it's incredible.
Exactly. Sometimes you need to zoom out and look at the big picture. A plateau isn't failure, it's just part of the process.
It's also a great time to shake things up. Change your routine, add something new. Like learning idioms or emotional expressions.
Yes, let's talk about idioms. They make you sound so natural.
Absolutely. Like, break the ice, such a fun one. Instead of saying, start a conversation, you say, I tried to break the ice.
I love that one. Or hit the books means to study hard. Much more colorful than just saying, I'm going to study.
What are some of your favorites?
I like under the weather. It sounds poetic, but it just means you're feeling sick.
Yes, and costs an arm and a leg. To say something's really expensive.
I had a student once say, the pizza cost me my leg and arm. I knew what they meant, but we both cracked up.
Haha, that's adorable. But it shows how idioms can be tricky too. You have to learn the whole phrase, not just the words.
Exactly. They're not meant to be translated literally. You have to feel the meaning.
And they add personality to your speech. It's one thing to say, I'm tired. But saying, I'm running on fumes. Wow, that hits different.
Oh, that's a good one. Or, I'm dead tired. Such strong emotion packed into just a couple of words.
That brings us to emotional language. It's one of the last things learners pick up. But it's so important.
Totally agree. The way you express emotions, happy, sad, annoyed, shocked, can change everything.
Let's try something. Say the sentence, I didn't know that. In different emotional tones. Ready?
Go, I didn't know that, surprised. I didn't know that, maybe defensive. I didn't know that, sad or apologetic.
Perfect examples. The same words, but the feeling changes everything.
That's why practicing tone and intonation is key. English is full of nuance.
And that's also where watching movies, shows, or YouTube videos helps. You see real emotions in real conversations.
Yes, and you pick up natural phrases like, no way, you've got to be kidding me, or seriously.
Exactly. Those are gold when you want to sound like a native speaker. And they make conversations so much more interesting.
It's like adding color to your language. Without them, you're speaking in black and white.
Oh, I love that. Let's talk about another trick, shadowing. Have you used it with your students?
Yes, shadowing is one of my all-time favorite techniques. For those who don't know, it means listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say, word for word, with the same rhythm and intonation.
Right after they say it. Like you're echoing them.
Exactly. You can do it with movies, interviews, even this podcast.
Haha, yes, try to shadow me. Welcome to the English Hour.
Welcome to the English Hour.
Nice, it helps with pronunciation, fluency, and confidence. Plus, you feel kind of cool doing it.
Yeah, it's like voice acting practice. And over time, it helps you internalize grammar and natural phrasing without even thinking about it.
I used to shadow news anchors. I'd mimic their tone, their energy. It made a big difference.
You've got a great voice for it, Sophia. Your pacing and clarity are top tier.
Aw, thank you. I've trained it over the years. But anyone can improve with practice and patience.
Agreed. Voice and tone are muscles, you can train them like anything else.
Okay, Jacob, next question. What should learners do when they get bored of studying? Let's be real, it happens.
Oh, motivation isn't always consistent. But boredom is a sign, it's your brain saying, hey, I need variety.
So true. That's when I tell learners to try something completely new, like singing in English.
Yes, karaoke is amazing for pronunciation and rhythm. And it's just plain fun.
Or playing video games with voice chat. You learn slang, teamwork language, and fast reactions.
Totally. And even reading comics or graphic novels. Less text, more visuals. Still language learning.
Sometimes, I ask learners to keep a video diary. Just talk to the camera in English about their day.
That's such a great idea. It builds speaking confidence and lets you see your own progress over time.
Exactly. And you don't need anyone to check it, it's just for you.
And once you're ready, you can even post them. Start a TikTok or YouTube Shorts channel. Document your English journey.
Yes, other learners will relate to you, and it pushes you to keep improving.
Plus, you build a little community around learning, and that keeps the motivation alive.
That idea of building a community while learning, that's powerful. Because English isn't just a skill, it's an experience.
Exactly. And it's a journey with highs and lows. I think that's something people don't talk about enough, the emotional side of learning a language.
Yes. The moments of self-doubt, the embarrassment when you say something wrong, the frustration when you can't express yourself the way you want to.
Oh, I've been there. I once asked a waiter in Spain if I could kill the menu instead of see the menu. I said, "Puedo matar el men," instead of "Puedo ver el men."
Nuo, that's hilarious and horrifying at the same time.
Yeah, the poor guy looked so confused. But we both laughed, and I never forgot the right phrase after that.
Those are the moments that shape us. Every language learner has a few cringy stories like that. It's part of the package.
Absolutely. And here's the key: don't run from those mistakes. Embrace them. They become funny stories later.
Actually, let's talk about that. How important is storytelling in language learning?
Huge. Telling a story activates so many parts of the brain. You're thinking about time, order, emotions, tone, vocabulary. It's like the ultimate language workout.
I love that. And stories make you more human. When you share a story, people connect with you.
Right. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, if your story is real, people will listen.
Do you have a simple storytelling framework that learners can follow?
Sure, I always teach the three-part structure: beginning, middle, end. Beginning, set the scene, where were you, who was there. Middle, what happened. What problem did you face? End, how did it finish? What did you learn or feel?
So simple and effective. Like, last weekend, I went to the beach. Suddenly, I realized I forgot my swimsuit. So I had to swim in my jeans. Boom. Story told.
Haha, perfect. Short, funny, and real. And then you can build it up with details. It was sunny. The beach was crowded. I was embarrassed. But it was fun. Now you're adding emotion and texture.
Yes. And the more you tell that story, the smoother it gets. That's the beauty of repetition.
And honestly, storytelling also helps you think in English. Because when you tell a story, you stop translating and start imagining in the language.
Exactly. I always get questions like, how do I stop translating in my head? And the answer is think in ideas, not in words.
Yes, that's so key. Don't think, what's the English word for this? Think, what am I trying to say? And let your brain find a path.
Let's give an example. Say you want to say, I'm hungry, but you forgot the word, hungry. What can you do?
Say, I want food, or I need to eat. The idea is more important than the perfect word.
Exactly. That's communication. We don't always have the perfect word even in our native language.
Totally. Sometimes I forget a word in English and I say, that thing you use to open bottles. And people get it.
Haha, yes, and native speakers do that all the time. So learners should feel zero shame about it.
Let's try a little challenge. I'll describe something without using the exact word. You guess it.
Ooh, okay, go.
Okay? It's cold. It's white. It falls from the sky in winter. Kids love to play in it.
Snow.
Yes, see. I didn't need the word snow to describe it. And that's a great exercise for learners. Describe things around you without naming them.
It trains your brain to work in English, not just translate.
And you can play this game anywhere with friends or even by yourself. Pick an object and explain it in English out loud.
Honestly, speaking to yourself is one of the best practices, and it's so underrated.
I agree. I always tell my students, be your own best speaking partner. Narrate your actions. Now I'm cooking. I'm chopping onions. I'm boiling water.
and it builds fluency, especially with everyday vocabulary.
Yes, you get used to forming sentences without pressure.
Let's get real. Jacob, what about learners who say, I don't have anyone to talk to in English?
That's such a common challenge, and I always say you do. You have yourself, you have YouTube, you have podcasts, you have this show.
Yes, I love that. We're your practice partners. Listen to us, shadow us, talk back to us. Pretend we're in the room with you.
Exactly, you can pause the episode and answer the questions out loud. Practice your opinions.
Let's do that now. We'll ask a question, and the listener has 10 seconds to answer in English.
Okay, here's the question. What did you do last weekend? Pause for 10 seconds.
Nice, I hope you answered out loud. If not, rewind and try again.
Let's do another one. What's your favorite food and why? Pause for 10 seconds.
Awesome, see. You are practicing. Every time you listen, every time you speak even just one sentence, you're getting better.
And it all adds up. Day by day, sentence by sentence. Progress is invisible, but it's happening.
I love how you said that. Let's repeat it together. Progress is invisible, but it's happening.
One more time, say it with us. Wherever you are, progress is invisible, but it's happening.
Beautiful. You've come further than you think, my friend.
Keep learning. Keep laughing at your mistakes and celebrating your wins.
We're proud of you. And we're here with you, every step of the way. Jacob, I know we've talked about the mindset and speaking practice, but what about concrete strategies? Like, how can learners remember vocabulary better? I keep hearing about this thing called spaced repetition.
Ah yes, spaced repetition, that's a game changer. It's basically a smart way to review words and phrases at the perfect times, so they stick in your long-term memory.
Perfect times. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure, the idea is when you first learn a new word, you review it soon after, like within a day. Then you wait a bit longer before reviewing it again, maybe after 3 days, then a week, then a month.
So the intervals get longer each time.
Exactly. That way your brain keeps recalling the word just before you might forget it, strengthening the memory.
That sounds really efficient. Is there a tool or app that helps with this?
There are many. Anki is one of the most popular apps. It's free, customizable, and uses spaced repetition algorithms to schedule your flashcards.
I've heard of Anki. But for beginners, is it complicated?
It can look a bit technical at first, but once you set up a deck or download pre-made decks, it's super user-friendly. You just review flashcards daily for a few minutes.
That's great. What about vocabulary journals? I've heard people mention that, but I'm not sure how to do it effectively.
Vocabulary journals are fantastic because they're personal. Instead of just writing words and translations, you write the word, its meaning, example sentences, and maybe even a small drawing or memory trick.
A drawing. That's creative.
Yeah, if you're a visual learner, associating images with words helps lock the meaning in your brain.
What's an example of a good entry?
Okay, say you're learning the word serendipity. In your journal, write word serendipity, meaning finding something good by chance, sentence. It was pure serendipity that I met my best friend on that train. Drawing maybe a little smiley face or a 4-leaf clover.
That makes the learning process more memorable. I love that.
Also, when you write example sentences that relate to your life, it makes the word more meaningful and easier to remember.
I imagine reviewing this journal regularly is key, right?
Absolutely. And when you add new words, try to use them in your daily speaking or writing.
Practice, practice, practice. It all comes back to that.
Now, what about apps besides Anki? Any favorites?
I'm curious about that too. What apps do you recommend?
Well, Duolingo is very popular for beginners. It's fun and gamified, which keeps motivation high. For intermediate learners, Memrise offers native speaker videos that help with pronunciation and real-life usage.
That sounds useful. And what about speaking practice apps?
HelloTalk and Tandem are great for that. They connect you with native speakers around the world. You can chat via text, voice, or video.
So it's like having a language exchange partner, anytime you want.
Exactly. You help someone learn your language, and they help you with English. It's a win-win.
Are there any tips for making the most out of these apps?
First, set small, achievable goals, like, I'll practice 10 minutes a day. Second, don't be afraid to make mistakes when chatting with native speakers. They usually appreciate your effort.
And what about pronunciation practice? It's something many learners struggle with.
Great question. Apps like Elsa Speak and Speechling offer AI-based feedback on your pronunciation, so you can practice tricky sounds and get instant corrections.
AI helping with pronunciation. That's impressive.
Yeah, technology has really changed language learning. But remember, listening and mimicking native speakers is still super important.
Listening is key, like watching movies or listening to podcasts.
Exactly, when you listen, try to imitate the rhythm, intonation, and speed of native speakers. Shadowing is a great technique. Repeat what you hear immediately.
Can you give a quick example of shadowing?
Sure, let's try a simple sentence. How are you today? You listen, then immediately say it aloud, matching the speed and tone.
Got it. So it's like being a language parrot.
Haha, yes, but it helps your mouth get used to the sounds and your brain link meaning with speech.
This is fantastic advice, Jacob. For our listeners, do you have a quick daily learning plan combining all these ideas?
Sure, here's a simple routine: morning review your vocabulary journal or Anki flashcards for 10-15 minutes. Afternoon, watch an English video or listen to a podcast episode. Try to shadow some sentences. Evening, use a speaking app like HelloTalk to chat with a native speaker or speak to yourself narrating your day. Before bed, write a few sentences using new vocabulary in a journal or app.
That sounds manageable and balanced. Learning that fits in your day, not overwhelming.
Exactly, consistency beats intensity. Even 20 minutes a day adds up.
And the best part, you're practicing all skills: reading, listening, speaking, and writing.
Yes, and the more you enjoy it, the easier it becomes.
Thank you so much, Jacob. This practical advice will help our listeners build better habits.
My pleasure, Sophia. I hope everyone listening starts today with one small step.
Jacob, speaking of grammar, many learners find it intimidating. Do you have any advice on how to tackle grammar without getting overwhelmed?
Absolutely, grammar doesn't have to be scary. I always suggest focusing on one small grammar point at a time instead of trying to learn everything at once.
That makes sense. Could you give an example?
Sure. For instance, 1 week, you might focus just on the present simple tense. Learn how and when to use it. Then practice making sentences every day.
And the next week?
Move on to something else, like the present continuous tense. By breaking grammar into manageable chunks, you get a clear understanding without confusion.
How can learners practice grammar actively?
Writing is key. Try keeping a daily journal or writing short paragraphs using the grammar point you're studying.
I've also heard about grammar games. Are those effective?
Definitely, games make learning fun and memorable. Apps like Grammarly and websites like English Page have interactive exercises and quizzes.
Speaking of Grammarly, does it only correct spelling, or does it help with grammar too?
It helps with both. It checks for mistakes and suggests improvements in real time. It's like having a personal grammar coach.
Amazing. What about idioms and expressions? They seem tricky for learners.
Idioms are fun, but challenging because their meanings aren't literal. My advice is to learn idioms in context, not just memorize them.
How do you mean by in context?
For example, instead of just memorizing "it's raining cats and dogs," watch a scene in a movie where it's used or read a story that includes it.
So you learn how native speakers actually use it.
Exactly, and then try to use idioms in your own sentences. Maybe even keep a separate idioms journal.
That sounds like a great way to sound more natural in English.
Yes, and it's a good conversation starter too.
Now, you mentioned earlier that writing is important. How can learners improve their writing skills?
Start small. Write short emails, messages, or diary entries every day. Then get feedback from native speakers if possible.
Where can they get feedback?
Websites like Lang8 and Italki let you post writing and get corrections from native speakers and tutors.
That's really helpful. What about structuring longer writing like essays or stories?
Planning is important. Start with an outline: introduction, main points, conclusion. Keep your sentences clear and simple.
Any tips on improving vocabulary in writing?
Use a thesaurus to find synonyms, but don't overcomplicate your writing. Clarity is more important than using fancy words.
Wise advice. Now, what about speaking fluency? Many learners hesitate because they fear making mistakes.
The fear of mistakes is the biggest barrier. I always say, speak as much as you can and don't worry about perfection.
Easier said than done.
True, but if you practice regularly, your confidence will grow. Joining conversation clubs or online groups helps a lot.
Are there ways to practice speaking alone?
Yes, try speaking out loud about your day or narrate what you're doing. Recording yourself and listening back is also useful.
Does listening to yourself help with pronunciation?
Absolutely. You can catch errors and notice if your intonation sounds natural.
How important is watching English movies and shows?
Very important. It improves your listening skills, exposes you to slang and expressions, and shows how English is used in real life.
Do you have any favorite shows for learners?
I recommend sitcoms like Friends or The Office. They have everyday language, humor, and clear dialogue.
Those are classics. How about podcasts?
Podcasts are great for learning on the go. The English We Speak by the BBC and ESPod are good ones.
What's the best way to use podcasts for learning?
Listen once for general understanding, then again to note new vocabulary or expressions. Try to repeat parts out loud.
Thanks for all these tips, Jacob. For our listeners, can you summarize the key points to keep in mind for effective learning?
Sure, here they are. 1. Set small, clear goals and be consistent. 2. Focus on one thing at a time, whether grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciation. 3. Use tools like apps, journals, and flashcards to reinforce learning. 4. Practice all 4 skills: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. 5. Don't fear mistakes, use them as learning opportunities. 6. Engage with native content like movies, shows, and podcasts. 7. Get feedback from native speakers whenever possible. 8. Make learning fun and personal to stay motivated.
That's an excellent checklist. I hope everyone listening feels motivated to keep improving their English every day.
Me too, Sophia. Remember, learning a language is a journey, not a race.
Very true. Thank you again, Jacob, for joining me today and sharing your insights.
Thank you for having me, Sophia. It's been a pleasure.
Jacob, let's start our first idiom quiz for the listeners. I'll say a sentence with a missing idiom, and you can help fill in the blank and explain it. Ready?
Ready, let's do it.
Here's the first one. After working on the project all night, I was exhausted and ready to Oh.
That would be throw in the towel. It means to give up or stop trying.
Great. Next, we planned a surprise party, but someone accidentally and now everyone knows.
Let the cat out of the bag. Fits perfectly. It means to reveal a secret.
Awesome. Last one for now. I finished my part of the work, so now the is in your court.
That means it's your turn to act or decide.
Exactly. Now, let's try building sentences. I'll give you an idiom, and you make a sentence with it.
Sounds good.
Use piece of cake.
Learning English grammar was a piece of cake once I practiced every day.
Nice. How about butterflies in my stomach?
I had butterflies in my stomach before my first big speech, but it went well.
Perfect. One more. Burning the midnight oil.
I was burning the midnight oil to prepare for my exams last week.
Excellent work, Jacob. And thanks for joining us today. For everyone listening, remember to practice these idioms and try using them in your conversations.
Thanks, Sophia. Keep practicing and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn.
Absolutely. That's all for today's episode of the English Hour. We'll be back soon with more tips, fun exercises, and interesting conversations. Until then, keep learning and stay motivated.